And we are live. Looks like we got an error on Periscope, so I'm going to get that going again here really fast. Looks like everything's try again. If not, we'll just unfortunately going to have to continue on without him, it looks like. Sorry about that. All right, mile high. Hello, everybody in Broncos country, and welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers Live podcast. My name is Lance Sanderson, as your host, as always. Joining me today is my good friend and colleague. He is your Denver Broncos insider and Mile High Huddle senior NFL draft analyst, Erick Trickel. And also we have Coach Luc Polglaze joining us once again from Kenyon College. We're going to break down some running backs, but before we get there, guys, how are we doing today? What's going on?
I'm doing all right. Just been busting out some scouting reports and stuff like that to go up over the next basically 10 days because the draft is just right around the corner. Super excited for that, and just doing what work I can, getting what stuff I can done before that, and hopefully it all gets up and published before then.
Yeah. Luke, I know you got some installs going with the offense. You're coaching the wide receivers over that way. Did some running backs before. So how's everything going on in your neck of the woods?
Well, things are, as you might imagine, a little bit interesting at the moment. I think we're all kind of adjusting to a new normal of sorts.
Yep.
So everybody, all of our football players are back at home. So we've been jumping on the Zoom bandwagon more or less. We've been using, the Google Meets of the world to get our installs in, and it's been good to kind of have some sense of normalcy to get back to a little bit of football in these kind of crazy times.
Yeah, I hear you, man. It's definitely kind of weird right now with everything going on, with that word we're not supposed to mention right now. But I mean, doing the Zoom meetings, my two kids are doing Zoom meetings to go to school and stuff like that right now, and it's kind of an interesting way of going about everything. So, but anyways, guys, today we're breaking down some running backs. I've seen some comments coming in on the comment stream saying, Denver's not going to draft a running back, and we talked about doing this episode a couple of weeks ago, and this was before the Broncos had picked up Melvin Gordon, but we wanted to kind of stay consistent with this and break down some later round guys because there is actually kind of a need there. You never know what's going to happen with Royce Freeman. You've got Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay. The Broncos could use another guy out of the backfield as a pass catcher, preferably as like a third down back. So there is kind of a need there as well. But before we get to that, guys, make sure you guys are following all of us. You can follow me at Sanderson MHH. You can follow Erick at Erick Trickel, and for Coach Luc Polglaze at Luc Polglaze. Get at us on Twitter. You guys can follow the show at DVDD_pod. Make sure also you guys are following at Mile High Huddle to get instant breaking news analysis, opinion articles, film breakdowns, stuff like that on your Denver Broncos. Now, let's see. Dylan Von Ark's coming in with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Dylan, for the donation. We're going to break this down. We've got a fairly decent list of players we're going to take a look at. But, guys, what are your thoughts on Salvon Ahmed, the running back out of Washington? Erick, I'll let you go first.
I actually like him. I think that he offers up decent speed to just be a guy that you want to get the ball to in space. I do have questions about him running between the tackles a little bit, but outside the tackles – screens, plays, using him outside as wide as a receiver, just things to get him the ball quickly. I think that he can be fine at. And I know our colleague at Nick Kendall, that's his Twitter account, he's multiple times has touted the whole stacking speed on top of speed. And if Denver wants to add even more speed to the offense, then Salvon Ahmed is a guy to go and get and to do just that.
Yeah, I watched him and I thought, it was a little bit interesting the way Washington kind of used him at times. That they kind of, their kind of offensive mentality over the past few years has been, running the same plays out of just a variety of different formations and just formation the defense to death and make them adjust to that. So, kind of as a result, I thought he had really good patience. I didn't love his vision at times. For a guy who kind of looks like him, his height and weight, some of the perimeter runs like pin and pull, he just looked a little bit uncomfortable with in terms of vision, which actually surprised me. The one thing that kind of jumped out for me time and again with him was he's really good at power. Like, I can't understand, I don't know what it is about the specific play of power that is kind of easier for his skill set. I don't know if it's, his vision, like on reading linebackers on a zone or a stretch run might be a little bit harder, but he's really good at power. Like, he finds the puller, he gets behind the puller, and he gets downhill.
Yeah, I actually really liked it. It's not that he's a very long speed. He does have the speed to take it the distance if he does get a nice crease and get up into some open space. But he does have that quick initial burst, and it's more quick than fast with him. So I really like that about him as well. Now, Kenneth Booker coming in with Antonio Gibson of Memphis. And this was a guy, Luke, we didn't get a chance to talk to you about, but he's one that I wanted to mention as well. He was actually a wide receiver and a running back at Memphis. And obviously, if you look at the stats there, 4.3940 at the combine. He tested very, very well down that way. As far as a receiver coming out of the backfield, he might be the best guy in this class. Eric, go ahead and speak on him just a little bit.
I think as a runner, you're getting somebody who's going to be very limited. I think that he only had 33 carries, and I think all but like 2 of them were outside the tackles on stretch runs or swing plays, stuff like that. So just not a guy with much experience there. At times running the ball, his vision can be a little bit questioned. He still managed to find the right lane, but I think it was just him bouncing around a little bit until he found that opening instead of just actually finding it quickly with his eyes and hitting it. Definitely like his ability of what he brings as just an offensive weapon with everything that he can do, and you can use him as a returner and just let him go make plays. I mean, he's another guy that you just want to get the ball into his hands and just let him go do something. I like what he could bring. He's a guy that I liked a lot more before they brought in Melvin Gordon, because I think that in the end, I think Antonio Gibson's probably going to go somewhere in that 3rd or 4th round, which might be a little bit earlier than what the Broncos are looking for that 3rd running back.
Yeah, and last night we were doing our last mock draft using the Draft Network's mock machine, and Antonio Gibson was a guy that I was really kind of looking for, and he was gone when the Broncos got into the 3rd round. And yeah, with Melvin Gordon, Phillip Lindsay on the roster, it's probably a little rich for a running back there, but as just an offensive weapon type of a player, and honestly, with the way that he tested at the combine, if it weren't for him testing with the wide receivers and obviously with Denzel Mims and everything that he did, Henry Ruggs, the hype of the 4.2840 that he ran, Antonio Gibson had one of the better workouts, and he really got slept on coming out of that process. Now, Luke, I see you smiling over here. What do you got, man?
Oh, I'm just shocked. I mean, I haven't watched him, but, it feels like, like you said, he's kind of doing himself a disservice to work out with the receivers in what is unquestionably one of the deeper receiver drafts in recent memory.
Yeah. It was actually kind of an interesting decision on his part. I thought that he was going to test with the running backs, but to see him go in the receivers, then run 4.39, and nobody really talked about it. Like it was really kind of swept under the rug on the Twitter sphere and the draft community. So it was kind of something interesting to watch for. Now, getting back to the list, I'm going to let Luke, you go first on this one. Let's talk about Darrington Evans, the running back from Appalachian State.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that kind of struck me is that he's got great footwork, he's got great pad level, and he's really elusive in the box. And what I mean by that is that he really puts himself in a position, especially on any kind of outside run or outside zone, to find the cutback. He presses the ball laterally really well, and then he sticks his foot in the ground. He gets vertical. Now, that said, sometimes he dances around a little bit. I think if anything, he needs to learn that, the home run play isn't always there. He's a little bit inconsistent with his decisions, but I love his stop. I love his change of direction. One of the things I will say, he's not a great pass blocker, but he is a great chip blocker. He looks like he delivers some pain on chip blocks.
I definitely agree with all that. I mean, what I like best about him is he's just another one of those guys. He has good speed that you can just want to go get him the ball in space and just let him go make a play happen. There are some times, as Luke said, that he just kind of looks for the home run play when he just needs to kind of takes what's given to him. I just finished writing up my scouting report for him, and that's one of the biggest things that I noted was just take what's there. I mean, you're not always going to hit the home run play every time you touch the ball. So that's just something that he's going to have to work on for it. And this is another guy that, I mean, we made this list because we're trying to get Luke on here about a little over a month ago, or right about a month ago. At least.
Yeah.
And just things that coming up. And Darrington Evans at that time was a guy that I was thinking might go 6th, 7th round, maybe even get undrafted. But now there's a lot of love for him in the NFL circles from people I've talked with. And he's a guy that I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in that 4th or 5th round. And when it comes to the Broncos, I know a lot of fans don't want them to draft a running back, and they may not. I was trying to find backs at this point that they could take with one of their 7th round picks at the time or take as an undrafted free agent. So that was kind of one of the things that I was looking at for this, but Darrington Evans just has kind of worked himself past that at this point.
Well, and honestly, I see a lot of comments coming in and saying, why would the Broncos draft a running back? I hope they don't draft a running back. Well, at the late rounds, I mean, this roster, while the running back may not be like the most stand in the forefront need, there's never a bad time to just improve your roster. And this running back class is extremely deep, even though, I mean, they may not be the most boom prospects. There's a lot of players that are going to be the rotational backs, running back by committee kind of guys. But there's never a bad time to just improve your overall roster. Royce Freeman hasn't really panned out from being a 3rd round pick. Obviously, you caught lightning in a bottle with Phillip Lindsay, but the smaller stature there. I mean, we haven't seen it with the injuries, but he's got a lot of touches. You've got Melvin Gordon, who has the injury concerns with a pile of touches as well. He's a touchdown machine. So I mean, that was a great move to just bolster this roster and make it a little bit easier for Drew Lock and the rest of the offense to start clicking. Get another kind of a 3rd down back, a guy that can come in, offer some good pass protection, offer some good hands out of the backfield. There's never a bad time to have that and add that to your guys' roster. So it also it's fun to talk about the draft. These players there's a lot of quality players in this draft. So Eric, go ahead. We're going to just move this forward just a little bit and get your thoughts on Jamaal Hasty out of Baylor.
I actually really like Jamaal Hasty. I like everything that he brings to the table. I think he's got a good enough rounded skill set with it. I do think that there are some issues at times where he can lower his head going through between the tackles, and sometimes he'll leave yards on the field as a result of that. But I just like him. I think he's a tough guy. I think he's got not great speed, but good enough speed for the NFL game. Not a guy that's going to go break away 20-plus yards runs consistently or anything like that, but he's a guy that he's going to go and pick up 5-6 yards. Not every time he touches the ball, but a good portion of the time he touches the ball.
Yeah, and I want to backtrack just a moment here and just kind of touch on something, because I saw somebody ask what I mean by pad level. And I think that's something that's really integral to understanding, evaluating running back and to understanding a running back's play. Football, being a physical game, at the kind of the root of it, so many times you see is that the lowest man wins, right? If you picture, Christian Okoye squaring up with Steve Atwater in the hole, right? You think about pad level. So pad level is the fact that more often than not, the lowest man wins, because he's able to drive not only through the player, but up and through, and he generates that kind of pop from his knees up to pop through a player. So pad level for me when I'm looking at running backs, and that's true for guys at the college level when I'm evaluating recruits in high school, pad level's essential for me because and I'm sure you've heard this phrase a million times, but be the hammer, not the nail, right? Have a great low pad level, lowest man wins, and kind of drive through guys. I think that's something, kind of jumping back here, Jamaal Hasty, I think does pretty well. He seems to have a really good understanding of the pass pro scheme that he works in. He knows his reads. He works his way through them. I think of the probably 8-9 guys I watched, I think he's one of the better pass blockers. He understands the angle to the quarterback for the pass rusher. So he does a great job kind of cutting down the angle for the pass rusher and making sure that the defender can't get to the quarterback as easily. He's been used as a lead blocker. They've done some quarterback runs, some quarterback power stuff where he's used as a lead blocker. I mean, he has some great teach tape blocking reps, great feet. As a runner, he falls forward. He's got good bursts going forward. They used him at a variety of routes. He's shifty enough to find some success at the NFL level. One thing I think that kind of deserves to be mentioned is, his head coach at Baylor, Coach Matt Rule, he is at heart a old school power run guy. And so I think Jamaal Hasty, obviously Baylor, they were kind of a little bit more spread, 3 receiver, 4 receiver personnel. But I think he can absolutely be somebody who puts his head down and gets yards at the next level. And I think with his pass blocking skills, he has the ability to kind of put himself in a position to see the field early as a result.
Yeah. So Eric, just going back to that really fast, where do you think that Jamaal Hasty could potentially get drafted in this class?
I think that where he's looking at, with the value of running backs, with this class being it's not an elite class, but it's actually a quite good class for running backs. I think that somewhere in the 5th or 6th round is where he eventually hears his name getting called. And before we move on real quick, I do want to address one thing. Calvin Hamilton, it's not people who just donate that we recognize. We do try to get to as many comments as possible. It's just we just get a lot of comments coming through here, and we just can't always grab all of them. If you have a very specific question you want to ask and have answered, just keep throwing it in there. Eventually we'll catch it and try and pull it up.
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of donations really fast, I want to go back and get this, and I should have done this when we were talking Darrington Evans. David Cromwell, good fan of the show, good friend on Twitter and everything, comes in with a $2 donation. Thank you, David. We appreciate it, man. Better fit for Denver, Darrington Evans or Joshua Kelly, the running back from UCLA? Eric, this one I'm going to let you take away.
It all really depends on what you're wanting. Are you wanting a guy with a little bit more speed? Because that's Darrington Evans in the way that you want to go. A guy who can go make plays in the open field and just kind of be that more, offer up more speed for it and versatility with you in the offense. If you want a guy who's more of a traditional running back that doesn't have great speed but good enough speed, not great power but good enough power, then Joshua Kelly is the way you want to go. And one thing that intrigues me with Kelly is his hands out of the backfield. I think that he could fit really well with the Broncos, and personally, that's the way I would go. But it really does depend on what you want more.
Yeah. Good point here. There's a good question down here. I'm going to grab this from Robert Caslow. Talking about scheme plays and stuff like that. What is a slant play? The only thing I know is a power sweep. Some team in Wisconsin did it, and it's not very famous. So, Luke, why don't you talk to him about it really fast?
Well, I think he's referring to the Lombardi sweep. They might have I think they named it after some guy. I don't know if you've heard of him. So the Packers ran basically it was kind of a pin and pull or anything like that. All it is it's pretty straightforward. Is you're going to have anybody outside blocks down and then the guy inside pulls out. So think of your wing tees. Think of your kind of traditional old school running the football. Is just bodies in motion and just trying to create angles and then leverage by pulling. Slant traditionally is kind of more of a receiver's route. There's a variety of ways you can get to the outside on outside run. You can run, your pin and pull. You can run any kind of sweep. You can run outside zone. So I know that there are teams out there. I mean, the run offenses I've operated in have been pretty straightforward. Again, as I mentioned on the show last time, disclaimer about me is I'm an air raid coach through and through, and I believe in simplistic stuff and just getting on the field and keeping the other team on their heels. So I've operated in schemes with probably 7 or 8 different run schemes, but I know that there are teams out there and that have easily upwards of 20 different run schemes.
Yeah. All right, continue on this. Wrong one. Sorry about that. Looking for there was one. Hold on.
While you're looking for that,
go ahead, Eric. Sorry about that.
Calvin, hey man, if you guys can't donate, we totally understand with everything that's going on right now. Just a quick personal thing with this. At the start of all this, my parents actually lost their job, so I completely understand what's going on with some people out there. I know that not everybody's able to donate, and trust me, you guys. While we appreciate you guys donating, it's not a must.
Yeah,
it's just something that we do appreciate. But we get it. Things are tough for a lot of people, for millions of people out there, and times are tough. And this day and age in this right now sucks because of everything that's going on. So we totally get it. I mean, hey man, all we do is we just appreciate just you jumping in, listening to us, commenting. That's enough for me.
Yep. And the biggest thing with this is for right now, I mean, especially the donations are great. We don't expect any of that. We just love having you guys on, like Eric just said, but it's a release, man. It's a release to get away from everything that's going on in this world. It's not only a release for you guys, it's a release for us as well. We get to sit here, do what we love to do, just talk some football and have fun hanging out with the guys. I mean, sometimes we share a beer over this and everything like that. So remember, like it, share it, get some more people in here, and do what you can to help us grow a little bit. Eric's actually empty right now. So this is the question I wanted to get here. Going away from the running back talk just a little bit, how would you all feel about taking Devin Duvernay, the wide receiver out of Texas, in the 2nd or 3rd round? I'm going to tackle this one really fast. I think that might be a little rich for my taste. I think even though I really like Devin Duvernay as a deep threat, he's still a little stiff in his routes. He needs to work on his route running as well. Very good hands. Only 1 career drop at Texas. Really good guy to look at for the Broncos. And I would say probably the tail end of the 3rd round, maybe with, what is it? So you got 83. Number 83, I think, is the pick that I would be looking at him there. The 2nd round is just a little bit too rich. There's probably a different direction that the Broncos can go there. And honestly, I would rather them go and target like an offensive lineman as a developmental tackle piece or a cornerback in that particular pick, and then readdress the wide receiver position when it gets to the little bit deeper guys in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. But that's just my personal opinion. Eric, I don't know, do you agree or disagree with that? Or is there some do you really think that Devin Duvernay at 46 is palatable for you?
46 for me is a little bit too rich for him. I'm definitely looking at him at 77 or 83. I love what he brings to the table. I mean, this is a guy that can challenge all 3 levels of the field. He can challenge all 3 parts of the field. I mean, just anywhere. I mean, you split up to the field into 9 spaces, and it doesn't matter where you have him going. He can hit it. He's got the speed challenge deep. I think his route running is a little bit better than Lance does. But, I mean, there is some work that's needed there. But one thing that stands out to me is that when you get the ball in his hands, he turns into a running back. Mm-hmm. I mean, I at one point compared him as a earlier in the season, compared to him to a smaller version of Laviska Shenault, because he has of what he can do when you get the ball in his hands. I absolutely love him. If Denver can go get, say, Henry Ruggs, if either at 15 or trading up for him, I think Devin Duvernay would be an outstanding pairing with Henry Ruggs, because they can kind of take off, flip back and forth about being able to challenge the deep safeties, or sit there and have the other one running quick slants and getting open and then making plays after the catch. I absolutely love Devin Duvernay. I love his fit with the Broncos, and he's a guy that I would definitely be taking. And then James Campbell, came in and said, just a reminder to like the video, everyone. It still helps grow the podcast. Yes, make sure you guys are doing that on, on iTunes and all the other things. I don't normally do this, you guys, so just bear with me with it. On all the things that the podcast goes on, make sure you guys leave a like and a review. It helps grow us, and just tell your friends about us. Tell all the Bronco fans you know that, hey, go check out this podcast. I mean, even if you're not telling them to talk out Death Valley Deep Divers because of Lance, then go tell them to check out Building the Broncos or the Huddle Up podcast. Just spread the word.
Yep, spread the word. And there was a thing that came up the other day on the Huddle Up podcast. Just the Huddle Up podcast network, as far as American football podcast is concerned, is ranked number 62 in the world right now. We've climbed. That's an 8-spot jump over the last 2 weeks or something like that. We're growing fast, and it's a lot of a part of that is because of our community. Now, getting back to football here, guys. Let's see. What was that other running back that we wanted to talk about? Darius Sanderson, TCU. Let's get a little bit about him. Luke, go ahead.
Yeah, he was fun. He was a lot of fun to watch. He's got great vision on stretch runs. I love his footwork. He's have great success just with the way he tackles things. No pun intended. He obviously prepares well. You can see kind of how he looks at the box, how he understands more than likely where his cuts are going to be. He understands his reads. I keep coming back to this, but his vision is exceptional. He's got great. He does a great job of hitting holes and getting upfield. I don't know if he's necessarily a phenomenal athlete, which I think is going to be one thing that kind of drops him down. Presumably most teams' boards. And again, I'm not a draft guy. I leave that to you guys. I'll let you guys tell me kind of where you see him falling in the draft, what round. He kind of strikes me as one of those guys he's a natural running back, and he's probably going to be one of those guys who gets in the third, fourth quarter of a preseason game. And, you're just watching casual preseason football and you're like, who's that guy? That guy's good. That guy's fun to watch.
Now, one thing with Darius Anderson is that I actually find funny. His nickname is Jet. A lot of people call him Jet Anderson, which I find funny because he doesn't really have great speed to his game, but he's a reliable running back that's just going to go out there and he's going to make plays at a reliable level for you. I like him quite a bit. I really like him for the Broncos, and this is a running back that the Broncos do have interest in. I mean, I don't think that's in the draft they have interest. I think they'll be looking at him if he somehow goes undrafted. But this is definitely a guy that is going in that 6th, 7th, maybe even undrafted range.
I actually liked Darius Sanderson a lot. I think that he is a little bit more juicy than just more quick than fast. Is not going to be a long speed kind of a guy. Really good receiver out of the backfield. I like his hands as well. Smooth hands catcher, at least from what I saw. I had a 75-yard touchdown in the Senior Bowl catching the ball. So that was, and it wasn't really like a fancy route or anything. I think it was just like a little swing route that he ended up breaking a tackle and taking it to the house. So there is some burst to him. There is a little bit of juice to him. Again, just a good, solid all-around running back. I like him a lot. Holden Adams coming in on YouTube with a $2 donation. Thank you, Holden. We appreciate it. Thoughts and chances on drafting Antonio Gibson. We kind of went over this just a little bit, but with the way the versatility that he has as a player, is probably looking as a third-round guy, fourth round guy. So probably not an option for the Broncos unless they absolutely fall in love with the guy. Just with Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon in the fold, having that other wide receiver running back kind of hybrid player, just an offensive weapon that he could have. I could see why the Broncos would fall in love with that, but I just don't see the fit right now. So probably not a popular option there. Let's see here. There was another good question from Robert Caslow, and it's going to be specifically, does Pat Shurmur go simple with his running game, or is it more complex than the typical running game plan of an NFL team? So a lot of what you're going to see with Pat Shurmur is going to be a lot of zone plays, a lot of inside zone stuff. He's not really going to play and press the boundaries for the most part. He does offer some stretch concepts to him, but it's really more the interior zones in between the tackles running. It's not the stretch outside sweeping zones that we used to see with like the Mike Shanahan system and then the wicked cutbacks. So really it's more simplistic, but there is complexity to it. I know that doesn't really sound it's very simple because it's very inside zone, but inside zone is kind of hard to run. So Luc, why don't you break down a little bit of inside zone concepts and show off your coaching acumen a little bit?
Well, inside zone is, it's pretty universal football play. I bet you that, anybody who's not like a wing T offense, if you asked any high school or college coach around the country, pretty much 95% of people are going to have inside zone and power in some form in their playbooks. Inside zone, all it is it's very straightforward. You're just kind of zoning up on the offensive line. You're climbing to linebacker depth. Everybody's going to coach the running back a different way, but normally he's going to press the front side A gap, right? So he's going to attack the kind of the play side leg of the center. And he's just, he's a lot of people have him read a down lineman. Some people have him read a linebacker. But basically what he's trying to do is he's trying to bring that linebacker down to the party, kind of, make him commit to a block and then cut based off that. So he's going to make his decision, and wherever the running back is not, or the running back will go wherever the linebacker is not. So it's a pretty simple play. It's pretty usually to kind of diagram up and run for an offensive line. But it involves a lot of really specific technique for O-line, and it's the play that spread offenses have built and have adapted with. Zone read comes off that now, and inside zone allows an offense to be able to do a lot.
Yeah, really builds a good play action game, and you can yes and no. You can build a really good play action game off of any running scheme, but with the inside zone, the big hitters that you can get running inside zone, especially if you have a guy with good vision and good burst inside the box, you can really build that play action game with that. So, Eric, I got a specific question from you from John Santesteven. Hey, fellas, who do you think is a better fit for Denver, Reggie Corbin or Austin Killians?
Well, before that, I just want to throw out there that you don't need a good running game to run a good play action system.
That's true.
You don't. It's been proven time and time again. You don't need a good running game for that. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. But as for the question, I think that they both offer up a kind of similar skill set with it. I do like Reggie Corbin a little bit more for Denver than Adrian Killins, although I'm a big fan of Adrian Killins. I like the speed that he offers and just the raw playmaking ability that he has. But Reggie Corbin is very similar to Phillip Lindsay. And this is something that, as to why you got to start looking at running backs now, is that Phillip Lindsay is a free agent after the 2021 season, so we only have 2 more years of him, and Melvin Gordon only signed for 2 years. And then are you trusting Royce Freeman? Are you trusting Khalfani Muhammad, who had a few bright spots in preseason last year, but lacked any kind of consistency to it? So there's definitely a reason why you got to start looking for the future with this. And I think that with these, if you're looking for a replacement for Phillip Lindsay, either moving on from him before the trade deadline this year or after the season, which I don't think is going to happen, but we don't know yet. I think that Reggie Corbin would be the natural fit there, but I still really like Adrian Killins. But again, Corbin's probably the way I'm going to end up going.
Let's see here. Try to grab a couple. Go ahead.
Quick. Rapid fire, Luke. Just give us some quick thoughts about Benny LeMay, James Robinson, and Raymond Calais.
Yeah, absolutely. Rapid fire. Benny LeMay, the Charlotte running back, they ran a lot of counter, which I thought was interesting. It's obviously something that they've game planned, and you're starting to see a little bit more counter, I think, in college these days. I thought he was big, didn't look super agile. He just looked a little bulky to me. But I thought he was a patient runner. He has good burst. He has good feet and pass pro, good jump cut. He's just not somebody you want specifically an outside run. He's a big kid. Like he's a guy you want between the tackles. James Robinson, I think he's going to have some ball security concerns in the NFL. I couldn't tell you the stats on what he had in college. His ball security, he just kind of swung the ball out a little bit too much for my liking. That said, he's decisive player. He's really good in the open field. I think he kind of looks to kind of reverse field when he's backed up and run all the way back around a little bit too much. I don't think he's going to be able to get away with that in the NFL. Raymond Calais, dude is like legit lights out, like track star speed. Burst into space is great. I didn't see a ton of pass pro stuff from his tape, so that's kind of one thing that I kind of walked away with just a question mark on. One thing you kind of talk about with inside zone when you're coaching is the big coaching point is for running backs is slow to, fast through. So that means that when you're in the backfield, you're really patient. You're slow to the hole. You let the play develop. You let the linebackers commit. Then once you hit that hole, you're fast through, that you're hitting it with full speed. You're fully bursting through the hole. One thing I kind of thought with Calais watching him was he's kind of a little bit fast through. He seems like he's really excited. He's just like gonna go hit that hole. And he kind of, he gets himself into a little bit of trouble sometimes, but at the same time, sometimes he just catches the defense completely off guard and, gets major gains out of it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that one of the big issues with Raymond Calais is that he just sometimes he just starts off full throttle and he just doesn't ever throttle down, which definitely does get him into trouble a little bit. I would like to see a little bit more of that speed variation with him running the ball.
And I will say that I'm fine with a guy who is super excited to run the ball because I want to give that guy the ball. That guy wants to hit the hole, go for it. I think it's something that you can pretty easily coach out of him.
Yeah.
But the problem is a little bit smaller, if I do remember correctly, a little bit smaller of a guy, a little jitterbuggy, kind of a gadget kind of a player. It's going to be very interesting to see how he's deployed at the NFL level. So let's see here. Oh, there's one more that I wanted to have you guys talk about really fast. DJ Dallas, the running back out of Miami. And Luke, we were talking before we got going live, and you said that the cut-ups that you got to see about him are not a whole lot of him running the ball, but it's more of him in pass protection. So what about his pass protection really speaks to you?
For him, like you mentioned, I think Erick mentioned off air beforehand that he only had like 100 some odd carries this year or something, which from what I kind of saw on film, that lines up. For me with pass protection, he's got great pop. Like when he's waiting for the blitzer, right? He delivers the pop. He delivers the punch. He anchors down really well, which means he kind of drops his butt, just kind of anchors and, really kind of blocks. When he's blocking, he kind of lowers himself into the blocks to be able to kind of take the brunt of the hit. I think he can do a little bit more finishing blocks per se, but he plays like he's not really scared of anything. And when it comes to pass blocking, again, that kind of the saying comes up. He's the hammer, not the nail. And talking about him compared to a guy next to Raymond Calais, he's a lot bigger.
You could say so. You could kind of say that. I mean, he's like 218 pounds or something like that, and built like a brick what house. He's absolutely just ripped. I love it. It's kind of a tougher runner between the tackles on some of the stuff that I did get to see him. I didn't really see a whole lot of him as a pass catcher, so I'm not going to speak on that. But just what I did get to see, very physical, very runs downhill, falls forward, hits, and like you said, be the hammer, not the nail. He delivers the hit, has good pad level coming through the hole, and again, just very tough runner in between the tackles.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me that he didn't get a lot of carries because it was pretty apparent to me that they schemed ways to get him the ball. He lined up at wildcat quarterback for them. They threw him a number of running back screens. So he was obviously an integral component of their offense, especially when it comes to pass blocking.
Yeah.
Well, if I remember correctly, and I'm actually looking up now, I think one of the reasons why he was kind of used in a limited role was that there are some concerns with his ball security, and he did put the ball on the ground a few too many times, which is probably leading to that whole thing that he just didn't see the usage that you would typically see with a guy of the traits that he does have.
Yeah. All right. Let's get away from the running back talk. Rapid fire some of these questions. We're going to have to get out of here, guys. We got some family stuff. Well, at least I have some family stuff going on tonight and getting everything kind of set up for Easter tomorrow. Let you guys have an early night as well. John Santa Steven coming in and he says, just one more question that I was curious about. Do you think Denver can use a 3-back rotation similar to what San Francisco used? I kind of think so, but I think it's going to be not necessarily like a 3-down rotation like that as fast as they were doing it to limit the carries. You're going to see obviously a lot of Gordon and a lot of Lindsey, and it's going to be the 1A, 1B, and it's going to be probably 15 to 17 touches a game for both of those guys, and then another guy's going to get maybe 8 to 10, something like that. Whereas in San Francisco, they were all getting 10 to 12 touches a game and just going like that. And there was never really a true bell cow kind of a back over in San Francisco this year. That's just my kind of take on that. There was another one here. Kenneth Booker comes in and he says, do you think Lindsey and Gordon can be a better version of CJ Anderson and Ronnie Hillman? I'm just going to say this point blank. Yes, absolutely. I think they can be, because I was not a Ronnie Hillman fan at all. I didn't like Ronnie Hillman in the slightest.
I think it'd be very, very hard for them not to be better than those two.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, Melvin Gordon, obviously the injury concerns. He had a bad year last year, especially after the holdout, and came in and he signed a big contract. But he's definitely a better player as a well-rounded player than CJ Anderson and Philip Lindsay. We've already seen it. He's already a better player than Ronnie Hillman ever even thought of being. And I mean, I'm not going to mince my words on that. Ronnie Hillman to me sucked. I'm sorry. That's point blank to you guys. So let's see here. All right. What's new coming in? Could more screens, draws, and jet sweeps open up the offense while protecting our young quarterback? Luke, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And, for things like that, it's not just opening up the offense for the quarterback, but, one of the reasons that a jet sweep, as we've seen it, like LA and San Francisco have done it time and again over the past couple of seasons, is it forces the linebackers when there's that kind of motion. Before the ball snapped, it could be a jet sweep, or they could be handing off inside zone the other direction. So it forces them to be honest, and you'll catch a defense kind of cheating down, expecting an inside zone. All of a sudden, quarterback sends the receiver in motion, snaps the ball, quick pitch to him, and he's gone. And I think more than anything, plays like that keep a defense honest, and they have to just react to the play instead of kind of guessing what's coming. So that's going to open up holes for the running backs. That's going to open up passing lanes. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, one thing that you see with the Kansas City Chiefs a lot, and this is a part of their multi-dimensional speed, something that we've been talking about a lot here lately, is obviously they're using Tyreek Hill on that jet sweep motion, and the defense, just knowing his speed is there and that threat of him taking it to the house coming off the corner, the linebackers, and as you said, Luke, the linebackers really kind of shift and they follow that motion, and then they run Damian Williams coming back off the backside of that and make it block. They block it kind of like they're running that front side jet sweep play, and they run off the backside of that, and it's wide open. You get 15, 20-yard chunk plays, and then you have to force a safety or a cornerback to make a tackle in the open field. And with Damian Williams, he's no slouch either. He's got some juice in his legs, and he can run pretty quick too. So that's a really good way to open up some tricky play designs using that jet sweep motion. Let's see here. Eric, going to come into you really fast. What about the center from Wisconsin? I really like him. Is he tough? He is tough-nosed and smart. And this is one that I'm going to bring it to you just a little bit because I know how you feel about Tyler Biadasz out of Wisconsin, and you're not very impressed.
I mean, if you're getting him in the 4th round, then fine. I think what he's at now is basically what he's going to be for his NFL career. I don't see much more room for growth out of him. I do think that this last year was kind of bothered by some injuries, but I'm still not super impressed with him. And just a guy that, I mean, it all depends on when you're getting him. Again, if I'm looking for a center in that 2nd or 3rd round, I want a guy with upside, a guy who has that stuff that maybe after a few years you're not looking at upgrading from. And I think Tyler Biadasz is a guy that you're fine with starting, but as a guy that you're in the back of your mind, it's like, all right, we're going to keep our eyes open for somebody better. Because I just think he's limited, and I think that's going to end up eventually hurting an offense.
Kenny Deets coming in from last night. What is Eric doing here? Did he void out his resignation? So to give you some context, Luke, last night, Eric tendered his resignation twice. He actually wrote it out on a piece of paper and showed it to everybody. It was absolutely hilarious.
So the story with that is the fax machine failed.
Never heard that excuse before, Eric.
Oh my goodness, that is awesome.
So there's actually one question here, Luke, for you, and it is Noel asking, what do you think of Henry Ruggs and Denver's offense? Last time we had you on, we actually were talking about wide receivers, and a lot of people, I'm sure, missed that. I mean, if you guys want to go back, you guys can find the recording of that on YouTube. So, Luke, real quick, why don't you give us your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, Henry Ruggs, again, another guy with just legit track star game-breaking speed. And I think when it comes to that, there's always space for that in an offense because it's always going to be able to create and open up a lot of windows for your quarterback. And especially when, kind of one thing that comes to mind for me is when you've got a young quarterback, it's always good to put young talent around him so that he can build that relationship with them and have them for hopefully years to come.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and Ruggs, the talk with Ruggs is just getting kind of overpounded. I'm not necessarily tired of talking about it, but at the same time, it just seems to come up in discussion. I mean, Denver fans are all about wide receiver in the 1st round. Have you got a chance to check out, Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb at all?
Yeah, and I was really impressed with both of them. I think they're kind of in that conversation for 1A, 1B of I don't know, 6 or 7 receivers I watched. I think CD Lamb is, but really both of them are kind of those guys who are super pro ready and are going to be able to step in day one and really contribute. And whereas Ruggs, he's just, obviously he played at Alabama. He's a well-coached guy, but at the same time, you have that raw athletic potential of running whatever it was, like a 3.940, something like that.
So that's what it seemed it was.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got that game-breaking speed that you can work with. Whereas I think CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy are going to pretty much step in and really kind of slot in well.
Yeah. So here's one question for you: is being a receiver coach, and this is something that Lance is going to get why I'm asking this. Drops. How big of a factor in their overall game would drops be for you?
Is this where I tender my resignation? Well, drops are like an integral part of being a receiver, right? Like I tell my guys, it's in the job description. You're the wide receiver, like you catch the balls. And so drops are definitely an issue. And, I've had guys kind of go through camps or through bad spells where they just cannot catch a cold. And it's absolutely something that affects their performance. And, you can kind of work with them in certain situations and packages and get them on the field where, if they're a great run blocker, that you're going to find a way to get them on the field. Or if they have that top end speed that they're going to take the top off the defense, that you'll figure out a way to get them on the field. There are a variety of ways people will work with that. Of just working the body mechanics of just catching anything. There's, LSU kind of famously just this past year sent their receivers home after spring with it was like the summer of 10,000 catches, and each receiver had to have 10,000 catches before they stepped back on campus. Drops are an issue. I'm not going to lie. I've had issues with coaching receivers with drops in the past, and there's a variety of reasons that guys catch the football. Sometimes it's physical, sometimes it's mental, and that's why you coach, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. All right,
now,
go ahead, Eric.
The reason why I asked that is just because you're talking about that, and Jerry Jeudy actually had, of the big three receivers, actually had the worst drop percentage with an 8.3 drop percentage. CeeDee Lamb was second worst with 4.5, and then the wonderful speedy Henry Ruggs with a 2.4. So that's just something that obviously, as Luke talked about, that you do have to factor in with this.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. All right, now, guys, a couple more questions here. Got one specifically for Eric, so a couple more, and then we're going to get out of here. Hey, Eric, what do you think of Albert Okwuegbunam, the tight end out of Missouri? And this is actually kind of an interesting question because he was one of Drew Lock's running mates, and is a very favorite target of his.
I think he's a guy with very limited athletic upside. I think he's a solid athlete, not a guy that's really going to take the cake there, I guess. Guy that you're going to want to use in line as a blocker a little bit, can be that safety blanket. I think he's got great size. I think he's 6'5", 6'4", 205 billion pounds or something, like 200. I think it's actually 265, but just a big dude, big physical dude that I wish he used his size a little bit more as a receiver. But overall, I do think that he is he's a solid tight end that you can probably get somewhere day 3.
Yeah, I am not for the Broncos drafting a tight end. They have Hireman on the roster still, and he could potentially be a cap casualty coming into training camp and whatnot. Just went out and signed Nick Van Nant. Obviously, you got Noah Fant, and then you've got Austin Fort, Andrew Beck. You've got Bug Howard, I believe, is he returned on a deal. So there's a big room in Dove Valley for the tight ends right now, and I just don't think that there's a need for the Broncos to go get another one. Let's see here. See if I can't grab another one.
All right, real quick.
Right. Go ahead.
Luke, who do you think of the best receiver in this class is?
Top 4. He came back with it. He says, what are the top 4?
Oh, top 4. Man, you're So okay, so of the guys I watched, which I think it's, if I don't watch them, my opinion is that I have no opinion. So I watched Ruggs, I watched Lamb, I watched Jeudy, Rager, Mims. Am I forgetting someone, Eric?
I think we had you watch Jefferson too.
I think.
Yes, Justin Jefferson. Yeah. Of those, the top 4, I think with Jeudy, with Lamb, those are your kind of 2 most polished guys. So I think they absolutely have to be kind of in the top conversation. Henry Ruggs, he's pretty raw. I think he can work on a lot of his, he's going to be challenged by press coverage. He's going to be challenged to have great handwork in the NFL against press coverage. Jefferson, so I'm kind of hedging my bets here, but I would say my top 4 in no particular order would be Judy, Lamb, Ruggs, and Jefferson. And if you had a gun to my head, I think I ordered them on the last show. So again, gun to my head, I don't remember what I said. Let's go Lamb, Ruggs, Judy, Jefferson.
In that order?
In that order.
Okay.
Again, I was probably the complete opposite on the last episode. And I'm going to have to resign in shame.
Whatever. We'll have you back again one of these days. We can break down some of the offensive scheme from Pat Shurmur and go into that and what the wide receivers and running backs can do in this scheme. But just quickly before we get out of here, Terry Randall coming in out of Canada, coming up from North and saying hashtag Coach Luc rocks. Thank you for the $2 donation, showing that Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is in fact a hashtag state of being. This is actually kind of an interesting conversation. Jalen Reagor ran the 40 again and clocked a much better time from Dylan Von Arx. And that was actually something that I had pointed out to everybody in our group chat. The pro day or whatever it was that Jalen Reagor had, and they had him reweigh and everything, came in at 197. So he dropped 10 pounds coming out of the combine, and the 4.51 or whatever it was, 40 that he ran, he ended up running a 4.28, I think is what it was. 4.28, 4.22 is what the two guys had. And that was actually from Adam Schefter that tweeted that out. So kind of a little bit of credence to that, but still, everybody's running their 40 times again, and everyone's stopping that watch just a little bit faster than they did at the combine. I don't know. Reagor does play a lot faster than 4.51 though, so I do got to give it just a little bit of credence that he was closer to probably the 4.3 area, which is where I figured he was going to run in the first place.
So just to throw this out there, Jalen Reagor ran a 4.47 40 at the combine.
Yeah.
But they went down, they broke it down, and with both of his runs, the clock actually started before he started running. And on his 4.47 time, it was actually at 0.04 before he actually started moving, which would have brought it down to a little bit better 4.43. I can believe his 4.28 40 a lot more than I can believe Cameron Dantzler's 4.38 40. That one guy who works in the IT department for an NFL team actually texted me and said that they found evidence that they actually edited the video to make Dantzler look like he was running faster. And the video that they have, they never show the things like right away. So definitely some issues there. And it's the same thing with Jalen Reagor. How much are you going to trust the hand times from people that you're not seeing and not doing yourself? Some teams are going to have issues about it. I can believe his 4.28. I think it's a little bit faster than I'd expect. I think that based off of his tape, I think he's more of like a 4.3, 4.30, 4.32 kind of guy. So somewhere in that range. So definitely 4.28 is plausible, but I'm still thinking that they just stopped it or started it just a little early or a little late.
What this guy said right here. Dantzler is a fraud. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us today. We're going to wrap it up here. Thank you all once again for joining us on the Dove Valley Deep Divers Live podcast. Thanks again to Luc for coming on and joining us. We'll have, like I said, we'll have you on again. You're good friends with the show and everything like that. Obviously, with being Erick's goddaughter. Eric's daughter's godfather. But anyways, good friends with everything. It's great to talk to you again. I'm glad that I actually got to stick in with this episode and not have the internet connectivity issues. But before we get out of here, is there anything else you guys want to talk about with the Broncos fans? Luc, go ahead.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on. Thanks again. It was a blast to get back on, talk some running back and receiver. And Lance, I hope when Erick eventually resigns, I hope I'm kind of A1 for that slot.
Here we go. All right, I'm going to pull this up before we get out of here. Justin, a good friend of mine, I'm actually at his house right now and doing this. He's my ex-father-in-law is a good friend of mine. He's actually a Raiders fan. One night we were having a few too many adult beverages, and I ended up passing out. And I woke up the next morning, and they had thrown this Raiders fleece blanket over the top of me. Took a picture of it, and then they sent it to Erick, and it didn't go through. So everybody's now actually seen it. But yeah. So thanks, Justin. I appreciate it, man. But
so with that in mind, guys, I think that I'm going to be needing to find a new co-host. Again with this. So
again with
anyways, guys, before we do jump out of here, I just want to say that tomorrow is Easter, and for those of you who are religious and celebrate the holiday, please have a wonderful Easter. I mean, just spend what you can with what family you can with everything that's going on, and also stay safe out there, guys. Just times are tough for it. Just take care of you, take care of your families, and until next time, we will see you later.
Yep. Thank you all once again for joining Dove Valley Deep Divers Live. Follow us on Twitter. There's our Twitter handles right there, at Sanderson MHH, at Erick Trickel, and at Luc Polglaze. You guys have a great night. Happy Easter. Stay safe. Take care, and have a great evening.